Hey, what's going on, Faithful? Just wanted to get on and continue the breakdown prior to the 2026 NFL Draft and talk about the next position group, and that is edge. So I wanted to get into that. We're going to continue the same theme, but before I do that, thank you so much for joining me. I am Guy Deal, and this is Niners on the Go. And so as we continue this, I want to continue in a way of, again, doing that same deal of early rounder, so first, second rounder, then mid round prospect, and then we go on and talk about the later round guy. And you'll kind of see this as a theme as well, that it'll probably be somebody that I've mentioned before in previous episodes, especially that last guy. But to start, I definitely think that this is a guy that is somewhat polarizing, I feel like now, because I've just heard different takes on is this guy any good, and what is he more of an edge setter in the run game? Does he have enough bend? Is he mostly all power? All of that. And I am talking about one of my favorite edge rushers in this class, and that is Zion Young, who for some reason now the mock drafts have him even a little higher sometimes than 27. Sometimes teams are taking him at 25 or at 26. So I find that kind of interesting as well, that at least in terms of the mock draft world, that he's kind of viewed not as a early second rounder, mid second rounder, usually, or I should say early second rounder, but that he's viewed as a guy that'll be there, or won't be there even at 27 for the 49ers, which I think is pretty rare, and is something that I've just started seeing in the last couple of days, this past week. But he's still a guy that, even though I agree that he's much better in the run game, and he had, I think, over 16 tackles for loss, and he had over 6 sacks, 6.5, I believe. Tons of pressures. He had some good games against Auburn and some other teams in the SEC as well. And I just thought that it wasn't just the fact that he was great at creating pressure and getting in the backfield. And then I thought that his bull rush and his power obviously show up there at 6'5", 260 plus. But the thing about Zion Young that I really like is that I think that his bend is better than some people think. I think that, and his power and ability to bat down the offensive lineman's hands, I think that that's actually an underrated part of his game. And he's still developing, spin moves and other kind of moves. But his rip move and his power move is strong enough, I feel like, to really affect most tackles that he's going to go up against. And I think that he uses his leverage extremely well. And we saw that in the Senior Bowl. I think he was, to me, far and away, him and TJ Parker for sure too. But I just think with Zion Young, you just saw him jump off the page, as I often say. And he was a guy that continuously was getting pushed and was putting these tackles on their heels. And it didn't matter if they were more athletic tackles or if they were tackles that were just huge, and just tough, immovable brick walls. He was finding a way to still use their momentum against them. And again, he can shift you to the left or to the right. He's strong enough to do that. Really long arms. I believe he has over 33-inch arms. So he's a guy that yes, his power move is his main move, and I think that he needs to develop more of that. But I definitely think that he has more of a pass rushing game than he's been given credit for. At least it seems that way with some of the reports I've seen lately. So I do think if he's there at 27, he is probably the best of that grouping. And then I'll talk about another guy that I really like. So this is kind of a bonus one, because I know I said I'd name 3 guys, but if it's not Zion Young, I would say Malachi Lawrence is another one that I really like as part of that group, that first, second round group. So either Zion Young or Malachi Lawrence. Now Malachi is much more of the bend around the edge, NASCAR package, speed guy compared to Zion Young. Although Malachi is really good against the run as well. I have to say, I was really impressed in watching his tape. I was expecting him to just get a ton of sacks, because he did at UCF, but he also got into the backfield and was really smart at being patient and understanding when he needed to attack and not getting out of his assignment, getting out of his lane. I think that that's something, sometimes guys shoot the gaps so fast that it almost makes it easier for the offensive linemen to just kind of put them wherever they need to put them or pancake them. And then again, you've lost, right? Then it's done. Then you got the guys are 5-10 yards into your secondary, and now you've got problems. But I thought with the thing that Malachi did do well was that he actually did stay in that lane, and he would hold off. Sometimes he'd hold off guys with his left arm or his, his off arm and just literally just kind of wait and then explode once he saw that the running back was going to pick a certain gap. But I think that is really something that's fairly rare when you watch the college game. I think guys sometimes are a little bit overzealous and they want to shoot the A gap when they should have been in the B gap, or the C gap when they should have been in the A, and things like that. So I think I like that too about his game. So that was kind of like a bonus one, but I'd say Zion Young, Malachi Lawrence are two guys that I really like in that back end of the first, maybe early second if they trade down. And then after that, I really, really enjoyed watching Ndamukong Tucker. So now Ndamukong Tucker is probably more in that third, fourth, fifth, I'd say, round range, where he's a guy that, because his skill set is more about just rushing the passer and he's a bit undersized, I think that's why he's kind of relegated to that spot of the draft. But make no mistake, this guy is very quick twitch and he's very fast, got a ton of burst, and he's strong as well. So he can get around the corner and he will affect the passer. I do think, again, he's going to have to develop other parts of his game if he wants to be an every down guy and not just a situational pass rusher. But if you're getting a premium situational pass rusher in the fourth or fifth round, especially if it's a comp pick in the fourth, in the case of the 49ers, I think that you really are getting a lot of value there. And so again, Ndamukong Tucker, Western Michigan, smaller school, right? Smaller program, not too small though. Western Michigan's turned out some great players. I know Corey Davis, back in 2017, 2018 draft, was picked in the first round. Big wide receiver, went to Tennessee, to the Titans. And so, they have pumped out plenty of NFL talent and some early rounders as well. So, he's not in a program that, although it's much smaller and in a conference that's smaller, he's not necessarily in a program that's not well known for producing some NFL talent. So Ndamukong Tucker is a guy I really like. Again, undersized, more in that 245 to 250 range, not in the 260s. And so he's not going to be a great edge setter for you in an every down defensive end, much more of the 3-4 style, which again, I know we've said Raheem is probably not going to play or have the guys play in San Francisco, but the versatility. And we know that Raheem Morris likes that versatility. And I think that this guy does bring you that option, that versatility where he can rush from really anywhere on either side, and you can bring him in, and he'd be a guy that would be really useful even in year one to bring in because of his speed and his burst. So really like Ndamukong Tucker. And then if you really need a guy to be more of this, almost like a hybrid of these two and melding these two things together of edge setter, but also still can rush the passer and plenty quick, especially like his 10-yard, 20-yard split times, like they're really good. And for a guy that doesn't run a great 40, if you're good in that short area, especially as a pass rusher, this is really valuable. And I'm talking about a guy that I've mentioned before in my underrated prospects episode on the channel, and that is Mason Reiger, the D end from Wisconsin. So Mason Reiger is a guy that might not get a ton of play in that third, fourth round range, but in the 5th through 7th round range. And who knows, he may drop to undrafted. It's possible. It's a fairly deep class when we're talking about versatile defensive end or edge guys that, again, they have that skill set, whether they're a speed guy, whether they're a guy that maybe is more of an edge setter or kind of a tweener where they can set the edge decently, but they're also a guy that is definitely just good at bending and getting around the corner and sacking the quarterback. So really interesting. Those are my guys. And I know I said 3, so I gave you that bonus one with Malachi Lawrence. But these guys I do think are going to be available there where the 49ers are going to be picking. Now, the 49ers don't have any picks currently beyond the 4th round because of all the trades and whatnot. And they have a lot of comp in the 4th. So they may need to get an extra pick. And I do think that they probably will get at least a 5th or a 6th rounder. Who knows? They might get a 7th rounder. Still holding out hope, for that 7th rounder from Washington, maybe for Brandon Ayuk or something of that nature materializes before the draft or on draft night or days 2 and days 3, right? So it is a 3-day event. And those are the guys though. For edge, I definitely think it's more of a deeper class especially in terms of the speed rushers. So plenty of guys to pick from, but some of the premium ones, like I said, Zion Young, Malachi Lawrence early, they'd be great picks for the 49ers. Thanks so much, everybody. Take care, Faithful.